Call the Board of Supervisors into session for our evening meeting. We will start with the work session with our county engineer and our assistant, Russ. Hi, Anthony.
Hi, good afternoon.
We have Russ in person and you on Zoom, so. You want to go over the transition?
Sure, I could go over a couple things. We had a meeting last week with Kevin to kind of go over some details, and Harley was on that as well to kind of go over the agenda items. But specifically, we talked about what's in store for the transition for Russell. Sounds like it's a simple payroll change form that will be approved in the future. July 16th would be Russell's first day as county engineer. And that's what would be on the official change form, starting at step 2 of the pay scale that was discussed. Also on the agenda today is several resolutions authorizing Russell to sign various things or approve various things as a county engineer. Those are important things as Russell transitions in that position, that he has the authorization to do those things. If you guys recall, you did that for me at the beginning of the year, and those are approved once a year, every year. So beyond that,
this is Kevin. We had the purpose of this meeting this evening was just to make sure there were any questions and make sure that everybody was comfortable with the plan moving forward. The job posting did expire last Thursday at 3 p.m. We received one application that was he was not a veteran, and it was deemed that Russell is still the most qualified candidate out of the submissions we had. Where the payroll change form is concerned, that's simply a document that goes directly to Human Resources and doesn't require approval from the board. So before we move down that path, we just wanted to make sure that if there are any questions or anything else that we needed to sort of cover, that we're doing so, because otherwise we're ready to move forward.
I don't have anything, Jay.
Maybe just the details for the records. What would be the start day and what would be the position? Start
day would be July 16th. And position would be Dubuque County Engineer. And then the resolutions you're approving today refer directly to Russell as the county engineer. So although their resolutions are being signed today, he will not be the county engineer until July 16th, at which point the resolutions will be in place for him to be able to sign on behalf of Dubuque County.
Yeah. There was some discussion outside of the board regarding pay scale. I think we had agreed on step 2 start, correct?
Yep.
Okay. And allocation, there was some discussion over that. Where were you at on that?
No, I'm at 3 weeks right now, so just plan on continuing to proceed as if just changing from assistant county engineer to county engineer. 3 weeks for my 6 years of service.
And the benefits will follow his years of service. So there should be no issues there on that end as well.
Good.
Literally just changing a few keystrokes in the system, and then we have a new engineer.
And what is the pay?
Let me find that. Anthony, do you have it handy? I'm looking for it in my email here.
No, I do not right now.
I believe it was.
It is step
area 140.
correct. It is step 2.
144, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I know that Russell, as I indicated to you previously, I visit with Shirley Helmricks from Delaware County at least once a month. We do some board work together, and they are envious that we've have that depth in our department to have talented engineers with full credentials to step forward. And I guess regardless of their feeling, I'm really very appreciative that you are willing to step forward and are up for this challenge and will continue to do good things in the department. I realize you've done a lot of the work behind the scenes. And so it's exciting for me to see the opportunity for you to grow. And we're appreciative very much.
Thank you, Ann.
And I do have the steps up on the screen. For fiscal year 23, step 2 is 143,325.
Does any of this action change the assistant county engineer's position?
It does not. The assistant county engineer position, and Anthony, feel free to chime in at any point, will remain vacant. And I believe who is taking over a portion of those duties that are going to be?
Wyatt was going to, correct?
Right, that was the initial agreement, or not agreement, but path, recommended path going forward, just as a transitional period. We'll be happy to discuss that further in detail now or later, however you feel fit.
My first question is that being, official? Is that an official, or is that just, so will the assistant county engineer position be vacant, or will it be assigned to Wyatt? And if so, who does that assignment?
I believe the transition called for Wyatt just to work out of class as taking on roles of the assistant position for the time being, as a transitional move for now.
Anthony, your thoughts on it?
Well, yeah, we intended to, I guess when we first talked about this, that we would have kind of a 1-year sort of interim for Russell and also for Wyatt as well. I think through the conversation, both, I believe the board and Russell are more on board on the same page as to making this a permanent thing for Russell. I'm fully behind Wyatt stepping into that assistant role, and I believe Wyatt is interested in that as well. That might be, the discussion that you want to have at another meeting. We can come back and bring some more details and maybe bring Wyatt in as well to discuss further. But I know Wyatt is very capable of stepping into that role as an assistant. So I'm supporting that transition as well.
Okay. Then we'd be looking for a certified surveyor then down the line, or?
Well, so what we've kind of discussed, and, again, you want to get into this a little bit further in another work session, but Wyatt would assume the responsibilities of assistant county engineer while also continuing his shared responsibility as a land surveyor for Delaware and Dubuque County. Where he would have to release some duties would be the typical normal topo survey, which just go out and take shots around bridges and roads. We would want to train up somebody from within our staff to take over those roles. We might be able to pull a maintenance person forward and help with that, or maybe Russell takes a look at hiring a full-time technician / survey party chief to fill that role. And that could be discussed at a later time, but Wyatt would still continue with the land surveyor duties. So anytime we have to do right-of-way acquisition and we need plats or survey plats developed, Wyatt would still be able to do that. And I know Delaware County is still very interested in sharing that service with Wyatt as well. So, and same with Craig as the assistant shared with Dubuque County. I know Delaware County has expressed interest in keeping that going as well. And Craig has mentioned he wants to keep that going as well.
Okay. As long as the transition is smooth all the way down the line. I have no problems with how you want to work it. Just
Well, one consideration I would ask is Supervisor McDonough's comments are spot on. So we've had 2 professional engineers, and that's given us redundancy, and you're going to be proof of that. I don't believe Wyatt is a registered professional engineer. Is that correct?
Correct.
Oh, yeah. So certainly has great qualifications, but if your absence would occur, we would be forced to hire a new person to replace you. So for the board to consider, we've had 2 professional engineers on staff. Is that a direction we want to continue? I would support that in whoever would want to be in that role.
I guess something we talked about, but we talked about it in the boardroom, to the back of the room, off the record, obviously, is you transition to this spot, you're down a person and the qualifications, and then you come to us.
Yep.
And once you see how your team, as you've described it, fits together, then you'll be ready to make a recommendation to us. Hopefully we'll have HR, and then you can be working with HR to start putting those pieces and do a search that you'll lead. So, you know, we're not telling you to do more with less, but for now, this is the step forward, and I think we will gladly respond to what you, or I will, with whatever you need.
My comments would be the county, in my opinion, is better served if we have two professional engineers and redundancy. And you and Anthony are evidence of that. So that would be my flavor, not today, but sometime in the future. I think that serves the citizen and serves the department very well.
Definitely.
Yep.
Okay. Anything further?
So then the plan will be, Anthony will submit that payroll change form to HR, and we will move forward then.
Yeah. Yes.
Congratulations and thank you.
Thank you for your support.
Congratulations, Russ.
I look forward to our meetings in the future.
Gonna do great. Got a lot of faith in you, so.
Thank you.
Are you gonna stay around for all of the?
Yeah. Yep, I'll just get a
Signatures today?
camera view, and if you need to call on me, just let me know.
And if this construction season goes as planned, you can say in your first year, you did more work than Anthony Bargett ever did in one single year as well. So, because this is going to be a period at a record year.
Setting the bar high.
There you go.
That's
Yeah.
what I-
Well, unfortunately, the fund balances would not allow us to beat that every year. So this is going to be your record year for a while. The other way to say it is Anthony spent all the money on the roads and bridges.
Bankrupt us, yeah, I know.
Not quite bankrupt, but just.
I think you'll have your hands full getting through this year with all the projects going on. So.
Yeah.
Exciting year.
It's
A lot of-
exciting,
lot
very
of
busy.
success.
Looking forward to it.
Good. Thank you.
Off to a good start.
Good.
Thank you.
All right,
Thanks,
next.
Anthony.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony.
Thanks.
Next work session to discuss the HR director job description.
All righty. This is,
Emailed to us, wasn't it?
yes,
Okay.
this is the auditor. I think Ed is also listening in on Zoom. Late last week, Ed had emailed out what we're calling our sort of working document, that where we took the original human resources position description and looked at potential changes and things that we sort of thought were important to move forward with. The purpose of this meeting this afternoon is to hopefully have a workable product by the end that we can put together for approval at next Tuesday's meeting. And then we can start our search in earnest at that point. So we'd be looking for questions, feedback, and we can certainly walk you through the sections.
Maybe you can walk through the big changes. I think I have some of the lists, but if you want to.
Yeah, so let me see if I can share my screen here. It might be a little bit easier. Zoom in. So what we, sort of the team that was looking at this between the current HR staff, Stella, our budget director, Ed, our project coordinator, and myself, we're looking at sort of narrowing the focus of the HR director to HR. So the majority of the changes that we are suggesting are changes that are going to remove anything that is not human resources related in many cases. And the first one on page 1 that is struck through in red here would remove the HR director as the liaison for the Board of Supervisors meetings, including preparation of the electronic agenda, draft-related formal resolutions, proclamations, certificates of appreciation, memos, and policy statements. This is something that we had been transitioning already with Dawn to the auditor's office over the last number of months. And the plan was upon our deputy in the auditor's office's retirement, that we were going to have the board duties moved back in, the agenda duties and sort of the setup and the reviews back into within the auditor's office at that point. So this seemed to be a sort of a natural fit as far as something that could easily be removed to help narrow the focus back to HR. Any questions on this one before we move to the next?
That is one where I did have a comment
Mhm.
that the language in the paragraph that's highlighted, that's striped with red. This includes quarterly elected official and appointment and appointed department head staff meetings. I think that should probably say something like convenes monthly or at least monthly.
I think what we were,
Those have been every week.
I think what we were planning on doing is having the weekly ones again. I had suggested to Ed if he would be interested in sort of just being the conduit to get those meetings back on track for Tuesdays at 10. I felt that was sort of better than having one elected official sort of send that meeting invite out. Some weeks we had all the department heads, some weeks we had half, but there was always usually some sort of value. It was a good forum for us to say, here's what's going on, here's what's happening in our departments.
Right, but wouldn't we expect that the HR director would be convening those meetings and not the project coordinator?
You know, I think it could go either way. I think the HR director would be a department head, just like the assessor attends the meetings and just like I attend the meetings and just like, you know, Randy Renison would attend the meetings, the department head meetings. So I think there's value for the HR director being there. I don't know that the HR director needs to be the person who is scheduling it and sort of being the conduit for any sort of board related information.
What do you want to do with that sentence that just hangs there then?
I would suggest that sentence is also removed as well.
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
I think they're helpful and they're beneficial and they should be in somebody's, if they're expected and they help the county move forward to achieve goals, I'd like to see them be the responsibility of someone. I mean, that's what we're drafting, right?
Agreed. And I think they are very valuable. You know, some weeks they're 5 minutes long, some weeks they're 25 minutes long. And it's a good conduit for us, to, especially with policies that change, to sort of get feedback from all the department heads. That was one of the key components we used it for. Whenever there was a new policy or something sort of, especially during COVID, you know, all the different policies that were affecting the courthouse, it was a great way to sort of get them out there. I think the HR director that we bring in will still be able to communicate all of those pieces of information through. You know, whether it's the project coordinator who arranges the meeting or the HR director, not really a hill I'm want to die on for that one. So I think that it's, yeah, you could easily leave that sentence in, or that sentence could be removed.
I'd like it to say arranges elected official and department head staff meetings. So it's allowed to be flexible, but I do think it should be
Somebody has to be responsible for it.
correct.
Correct.
I would generally agree with that. I think the other piece that I would pose is then maybe at the direction of the Board of Supervisors. I mean, I think wouldn't want HR just to call these meetings because HR wanted to call it. I think it should be either, I think it should be the supervisors that convenes the quorum. Doesn't mean that we're picking the agenda.
We had the meeting each week, the department head meeting, and it was just a standing meeting. So HR would just lead it, I think, probably because they sent out the Zoom link at this point. And when HR wasn't available, Ed would lead it. And when they weren't available, I would do a quick little, hey, does anybody have anything this week? You know, we don't publish an agenda. It was just sort of an informal.
I hear you, and that's why I said to strike it to begin with. My colleagues are putting it in, so I'm just asking for that's what I would think, unless you guys, do you want it to be as directed by the supervisors? You don't want part of it. And I think it seems like one of the roles of the supervisor's position to convene the leadership staff. Let's call it that, elected officials. Not saying we have to run the meeting, not saying we have to send out the Zoom. Clearly, we do a lot of delegating around here. But either way, I don't think it's a big point. So, you know, whatever you guys want to decide, you've heard my comments. That's it.
My experience has been in the meetings that I've attended and in the casual conversation with Dawn and others is that the conversation can be more robust when there's not a supervisor in attendance.
Right.
And so I always feel welcomed, but I wouldn't want to be the convener. So I think that being invited and knowing that I can be there if my schedule allows, lets the business of the department heads and elected officials continue without us being the figurehead or something.
So do we have an issue if we just, again, per Supervisor Wickham, just strike that sentence and and have that become part of the HR, or rather part of the project coordinator's duties, is just to convene a weekly department head meeting?
It's the HR's responsibility. I'd like to see the sentence say arranges elected official and department head staff meetings. She or he can arrange it with the project coordinator or with the budget director. I don't care, but I think it should be parked somewhere as someone's responsibility. It has great value to the county, in my opinion.
And how does that sound?
I'm fine with that.
You got two, go.
All right.
I just don't think the board should be involved in it. I think it's more of a platform for our department heads to discuss things and freely without.
Without the big bad supervisors looking over our shoulders.
Right.
Okay.
The next item up would be assist in real estate matters related to the development and processing of quitclaim deeds.
How'd that come from?
Yeah, that's kind of what I wondered. You know, that's something that our GIS department or within the auditor's office, we can handle that and take that in with no
That's all.
issue.
And that's also from a time when the county attorney's office didn't do civil law,
Right.
right? So what I'm looking for is some language talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we have, you know, those requests for proposals went out and the documents came back, and they're now all just pending. We've had professionals from around the Midwest give us proposals, and we don't have a leader to execute that. So I would like to have us say something. It says EEO and affirmative action and everything, but I think, I don't know why that language was continued as compared to diversity, equity, and inclusion.
If we can go through the items that we're going to strike first,
Go
and then
ahead.
we can come back through and any additional items that the board would like to add, if that would be okay.
Sure.
That's fine.
So the proposal would be that this line with the quitclaim deeds would transfer over to the auditor's office. And then the next line, assist board in development, negotiation, and maintenance of related property leases. I believe our budget director is handling the majority of that sentence as it is right now. So that would be struck.
I'm fine with that.
Favor of that? Okay.
I'm fine.
Yeah.
With all those changes.
The next one is serve as the county coordinator to assure compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act. Development and implement a plan that will assure county compliance with all aspects of the spirit and technical aspects of the law. Monitor facilities and functional areas to assure that all due consideration is given to the plan. This is one that the suggestion from me came to return this back to the auditor as the custodian of the courthouse. And later on, we're going to get to maintenance reporting to the human resources director, and I'll also be recommending that maintenance reports to the auditor under the custodian of the courthouse. And so this is something that we can talk about and see if we want our HR director to be in charge of facilities ADA compliance.
That was one of mine. So just curious to where that fell, if the board wants to talk about that now. And so maybe you can further clarify who would facilities maintenance report to?
Facility maintenance headed up by Chris Soder would report to me,
Okay,
the auditor.
okay. Under this proposal.
Correct.
I am comfortable with that.
As long as we know who is in charge of it.
Part of what I'm
So it's gonna
hoping,
go into your job description then
correct.
for the,
And it already is, to be fair, it is in the Iowa code under the job duties of the auditor. Custodian of the
Okay.
courthouse is there unless the board designates it to a different department. And so I think at one point the board designated
did.
over to human resources.
10 years ago.
oh, okay, if you're good with that, then I'm fine as long as we got somebody that's, you know, willing to make sure we're ADA compliant.
And then, oh, go ahead.
While we're on that, where's IT? So IT had.
So I have IT, on this job description, it shows that IT is reporting to the HR director. Our recommendation is that IT report directly to the Board of Supervisors and nobody else. And to round out that list of,
I'm okay with that. That's where it started. And I think with IT, a new HR person, we changed it, but comments quickly, any objections or changes to that, have IT report to the board versus HR versus auditor were the only two probably other likely candidates.
Yeah, I think in conversation with Nathan and in conversation within our group, I think the natural fit is to have IT report directly to the Board of Supervisors.
Done? Okay.
That is Nathan good with that? Okay, that is good. Those were my.
So those are two, we've skipped ahead a little bit, but that's fine. Those are two of the 5 entities that we're reporting to HR.
Yeah.
Another entity, according to this job description, is budget. And again, our recommendation is that budget report directly to the Board of Supervisors.
List
As
is-
it has been.
Yes,
That's on my list
Absolutely.
as well.
Budget director.
just sort of codifying that that's what it is doing.
I'm comfortable with that.
General assistance was another
Really
one.
comfortable with that? Okay, we get head. It's a lot of
General
pressure.
General assistance was another entity that was reporting to HR. And
Checking them off.
I
here.
would have them report to the Board of Supervisors through Randy at Veterans Affairs, unless there were any objections.
Problem with that?
Flip back and forth. It's been a marked change, but I'm comfortable with it.
Okay.
I mean, we have change.
And again,
we have change. And we have a
again,
new
this is to
person,
narrow the focus of our HR director to be able to solely focus on our HR needs.
HR.
and we don't have an HR director at the time.
Correct.
So
And then the final piece of that puzzle was the zoning administrator. The zoning department was listed as reporting to HR. I would request that the zoning department report to the auditor.
Agree with that. I think that's a natural alignment.
It's a,
are okay with that?
the auditor is okay with that. I am okay
I'm
with
fine
that.
with that.
There are a lot of processes that I think that we can work together with that department and with GIS and with our entities to sort of streamline and make it fantastic. So,
Elected official. I'm good with that.
yeah, you still have people reporting to people who are put in place by the public, which is the most important part of that.
No, the wages are on the agenda tonight, so you're not getting another raise.
Now, I told you I
It's
was,
other work.
I told you I was done. All right, we can quickly move through these other items then. So risk management, it has always been in our budget director's realm. So I would simply strike this sentence from this job description. It is being covered fully by Stella at this point. We coordinate all grant funding assistance is a combination between Stella and Megan's doing a lot of reporting for some grants throughout the county. Again, a component that I don't think is necessarily important to a good HR director, and we can cover it and have been covering it with other departments. And then we added a couple items down here, which would be supervise the maintenance of record keeping for personnel, protected and other confidential records, and provide guidance and direction to elected officials, department heads, and other managerial staff on a variety of human resource matters. And that'll still keep, the maintenance of the records would still keep sort of our central point for FOIA requests within HR. So anybody who was making a FOIA request could be directed to HR, and then they could disseminate that throughout, whether it goes to IT or whether it goes to an independent department like mine or the treasurer or the recorder.
And the only comment I had about that was the inclusion of employee reviews. Just that's, I would think that HR would want to oversee that. They wouldn't lead them, but there should be someone to say that we need to have employee reviews. Each department head should be doing their own, but there are folks who don't fall in that category. So I think that fits here, maybe it fits somewhere else. You and I have talked about this.
You and I had, Supervisor McDonough and I had a conversation about this, and I think there's value to the HR director, perhaps keeping a very short list of review styles or review mechanisms that the county would use. You know, typically review platforms like that are better when you buy in bulk. So if we were to have one or two sort of preferred review systems that the county uses, that could be a tool for then department heads and departments and elected officials to sort of choose which one they like. I think that would have to be a work in progress and sort of work into it, but I think there's value to including that on the job description. And as we move into the final page, under supervisory responsibilities, we would effectively be striking the entire paragraph except for that first sentence, that supervisory responsibility is over the HR department. And then qualifications, we did add a criminal background check. That's sort of standard on most of our job posts at this point. And we did add a few little items such as a master's in human resources preferred, and familiarity with reporting standards and the legislative process, especially at the Iowa level. HR professionals are pretty good across the country, but we definitely need people who are very familiar with Iowa law.
Did you guys have any discussion on the 3 to 5 years? I thought that might be a hair light.
I actually don't disagree, and we're open to a suggestion from the board. If you want to do, require somebody with more than 3 to 5 years, I don't think that's a bad conversation to be had.
Always can change it, but this signals.
You can back off, yeah.
The market, I would see more 5 to 7, you know, or just over. I mean,
How would the other supervisors feel if we were to change that from 5 to 7, or from 3 to 5 to 5 to 7?
I'd say 5 years or more.
comfortable with that?
5+.
Fine. When we're asking someone to be able to do labor negotiation, you're gonna want some experience with that.
Right.
Technically, by the experience, you right out of college, you have 3 years of experience with a company in HR, and you've got the first one, which is the very top one, checked off. So I think that's a little light. I think at least 5 years gives you a little more depth of experience.
Yep, I would go with 5.
All right, and that represents the, we looked at the travel. It said approximately 1/3 to 2/3 of the time of on-job travel. My definition and our application or our postings definition, I think, are different. I think we were calculating travel like to and from West Campus is included in travel. And for me, travel generally tends to be when you're away from your location for longer than 24 hours.
But also this would have been a time when that travel would have been to negotiations. There may have been travel to other attorneys outside of,
Correct.
you know, to predate Zoom too. So I'm fine with, I don't think travel is a big issue here. We
Then-
didn't include anything about remote. Working remote. Is that something that your committee thought was important to highlight?
We had talked about it. That really comes down, I think, to the preference of the department head or elected official, in this case, the Board of Supervisors. So I'm comfortable in my office, you know, looking at job descriptions and saying we can have a remote work component to some of the positions in our office. And I think that's my purview to do so with my staff. I would say that would be a decision amongst the Board of Supervisors, should you want to advertise or include a remote work possibility, knowing that we do have the full capabilities, we do have the ability to remote work, and it doesn't probably necessarily need to be clarified in a job posting.
Or maybe it does today. I do not see this as a remote work position.
And I see it as most other positions that we offer a flexibility to allow remote work when needed or when called for. So, you know, if somebody has to be quarantined, for example, if somebody, you know, is having some home renovations and they don't want to be away from work, they can still work remotely for a period of time. We have the technology in place. And I think that's a selling point actually for our position. You know, there are a lot of companies out there with administrative positions that are hiring.
Does this job description ever state that this person reports directly to the Board of Supervisors?
That will be under, we would include that. Yes, the Dubuque County HR Administrator, along with the, have the responsibility to carry out the initiatives and directives of the Board of Supervisors. So we can reword it to the HR Director reports directly to the Board of Supervisors. That would be no issue at all. And then you mentioned earlier, we can include a component about growing the county's DEI initiatives. And if there are any other initiatives or any other additions in lieu of continuing the work session past our time tonight, if you want to send them to me in the next couple of days, we'll put together a final document for approval on Tuesday, July 5th.
No, we do have to get something in it about the DEI.
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
As far as the remote work, occasional remote work, I don't have an issue with. I mean, don't have to be here every day, but
I think that there are some days you need to be here.
Right.
I also think that good communication and good technology can allow someone to act as if they are in the building. I mean, the auditor's office did it for months during COVID, and people would call and didn't miss a beat. They didn't know that Mary was on her couch instead of at her desk. So I think there's value to attracting quality candidates when that candidate realizes that we do have some flexibility.
Okay, you're good with that then, or? What's your thought?
I'd like to see the wording, because the wording, I don't think the wording's in here, right?
No,
So,
no.
yeah,
We're just
I'd like to see the wording. I think it'd be minimal, and, you know, this is a key position that you would want them networking, interfacing, communicating with staff. You can do that a bunch of ways, but I wouldn't want to send the signal that this is a remote position.
Absolutely not.
Sometimes that could confuse me.
We can do some,
That's probably
we
the
can do some
language.
wording, and we can always change last minute stuff next Tuesday and then approve contingent upon those changes. So
Okay.
I
Looks good
appreciate
overall.
everybody in our group, and I appreciate you guys sort of hearing us out.
Good edits.
Thanks, Kevin. Pretty good to go.
I'm good.
Call the Board of Supervisors meeting into session for Monday, June 27th, 2022. Let's start with public comments. At this time, anyone may address the board on matters of which are on the agenda. Please go to the podium, state your name and home address. Individuals wishing to comment on a public hearing will be given the opportunity during that respective hearing. Individual remarks are limited to 3 minutes. Do we have anyone in chambers wishing to address the board? Jerry?
Good evening. My name is Jerry Sigworth, 22987 Sigworth Lane, Holy Cross. I'm here tonight because I have some questions about why I was passed over for the zoning board position. I've been on the zoning board for 8 years and was applying for my 3rd term. This isn't a job you learn overnight. And even with my years of experience, I'm still learning something every day. I joined the commission at a time when citizens of the county were scared to approach the zoning office. I felt so passionately about it that I volunteered my own time to be on the hiring committee that eventually led to the hiring of our current zoning administrator. With the current staff in the zoning office, it's no longer a scary process. I'm proud of the fact that 90% plus of the cases that were presented to the commission were approved by the Board of Supervisors. I heard the reason that I was not reappointed was because the supervisors wanted new blood on the commission. You had the perfect opportunity to infuse new blood and with a new member filling an open seat, yet retain years of experience with keeping incumbents, including myself and Dave George. Dave was only appointed to a 1-year term, and in my opinion, I didn't feel that was right. The 2 new members were given the 4-year terms. Our current board does not have anyone that's been on it for more than 10 years, I don't believe. With Dave George starting just this past year, I think December. A couple others only in their 1st term. So it's not like it's a board full of long-serving members. When I first got on the commission, I learned a lot from the long-seated members like John Goodman, Mary Klosterman, and Janet Rice. I believe Janet was on the commission for over 20 years. I believe it is basically a volunteer commission. Our job is to have differing opinions. Not every vote will be 7-0. We are representing the people of the county. As a board, we work well together, and even with differing opinions, we still come to a consensus. I would like to know your reasoning behind removing me from my position, as well as the vetting process for how you select new board members, especially when until recently, we didn't have a fully seated commission for several years when I was on the board. That's all I have to say for right now.
Thank you, Jerry. Anyone else?
Dave George, 15425 Woodville Court, Piast, Iowa. I'm on the zoning board, and maybe this is a little premature for my situation. I don't know if it's something that's going to be talked about later, but after the last supervisors meeting, when I was appointed to a 1-year term, which I was applying for a 4-year term, I emailed all 3 of yous. I got a response back from everyone. And I don't know if there's a definitive answer to my question as to why that happened. I know Harley had gotten back to me and said, well, you can be reappointed next year. I don't think that's acceptable. I applied for a 4-year term. It was very clear in my application that I put in that I was a current board member. Even your own documents, the Dubuque County Memorandum shows that I'm an incumbent along with Jerry Sigworth. Just was wondering why I was tagged with a 1-year term when you had 2 people from the outside got 4-year terms. It just doesn't make any sense to me. And I think we're losing a hell of a lot of experience with Jerry going off the board just to get new blood in there. We had this PC complex that we started working on, and Jerry's one of the most knowledgeable people on our board. And without him there, I think it's going to be a little more difficult to get things done. So.
Thank you, Dave. Anyone else wish to address the board?
My name is Kurt Burbach. I live at 20783 Ridge Road in Sherrill, Iowa. And the reason I'm here is to help the supervisors understand just how effective or ineffective your board of advisements can be. I suffered through 11 years of the tyranny that was associated with the previous board administrator and the ineptitude of the board, not only the process of batting things back and forth between the Board of Adjustment and the zoning board. I unfortunately had to take legal action against the county in order for them to actually look at what was going on with regard to what we wanted. And at one of these very meetings, the last meeting to approve the zoning that we had, the administrator was falsely representing the project that we were trying to do. So now what we do is we get to fast forward after 2015, and we see an effective board, an effective administration, and a county service to the citizens that seems to maybe dealing with some politics that's associated with individuals and their stances. I urge you, or I caution you to do that as a member of a foundation supporting an educational process. When that breakdown between the board and the support for the supervisors changes, and it changes in a negative manner, negative consequences take place. So I urge you to avoid playing politics with this process and look at the individuals and the merits that they bring to the position.
Thank you, Kurt. Anyone else?
Samantha Boyce. I am 20877 Ridge Road, Sherrill, Iowa 52073. Currently the chair of the Dubuque County Zoning Board and going to be second chair as of July. I also just want to understand the process of evaluation, the process of what goes into the appointment of positions. We have heard over and over again, following the process, following the procedure, spending 15 years in quality, being forced to create, define, and uphold processes. What is the supervisor's process currently in order to make the decisions that you do make? Again, accountability is incredibly important. Jerry has been accountable on every level. To every question, every person, every supervisor, every peer. And so the decision to move him out, I think, needs to be explained farther than it's unfortunately your time to go. So what are the supervisor's processes in order to review an applicant and put them in different positions? I'm very concerned with the manner in which the county is currently seated with the open positions, with the toxicity within certain areas. We're losing good qualified individuals. And I think the question of why needs to be answered. And I think it leads back to leadership. So understanding processes, understanding your procedures, and wanting to know the why is a very, very fair question as a concerned citizen and as the current chair of the zoning board. Thank you.
Thank you, Samantha. Anyone else wish to address the board?
Mary Klosterman, 703 3rd Avenue Southeast, Dyersville, Iowa. I was a member of the board for 11 years. Unfortunately, I had to be removed when Governor Reynolds signed the law that you had to live in the county. I live in the city of Dyersville, so I could no longer be on the board. I worked with Jerry, and I thought we had a real good board at that time. And we were actually, when I left, I think we were 4 people short on the board. So it's always been a hard board to fill. It's nice you had a lot of applicants, but I really think you do need to have experience there. It's not an easy, it takes a couple of years to learn how this whole process works. So I just think the new blood, too much new blood is a problem. So.
Thank you, Mary. Anyone else wish to address the board? Jeff?
Jeff Pape, 31406 Dyersville, Iowa, Floyd Road, excuse me. In regards to Jerry's situation, I talked to Harley a little bit about it, trying to understand it myself, what was going on. You've got somebody with good knowledge. I fully understand what Harley explained to me about bringing some new people in and to keep the cycle going so that you actually get applicants. I've been on a number of boards over the years and helped with the county stuff here and there too. But one thing I've learned on being on all these boards is you've got to have that high level of experience. You've got to have that beginner with the new ideas and some new energy. And I think that's something that the county, from what I'm hearing, is working on a little bit, trying to put too many new people in possibly in a hurry. If you were to put one new person in this year, another one the next time, you could have this stuff rolling and still maintain some of the knowledge that your boards have. I don't think you want to go and give up that base of knowledge. That's not easy to come by for experience, especially a board like this or probably the other boards. So just be very mindful, I think, in the future, any placements, not to lose that experience. I mean, I've worked with all 3 of you, and I think you understand how important that is at every juncture. And it is important to bring new blood to keep the cycle moving, but don't get rid of the old just because. You better have a good reason.
Thank you, Jeff. Anyone else wish to address the board? No one in chambers. Do we have anyone on Zoom, Kevin?
And we do not.
Speaking about this related on the appointments on the schedule.
Yep. We'll move to the proclamation, proclamation for Summer Learning Week. Whereas St. Mark's Youth Enrichment has provided significant leadership in the area of community involvement in the education and well-being of our youth, grounded in the principle that quality summer programs are key to helping our children become successful adults. And Summer Learning Week is a week to reflect on the importance of keeping youth learning safe and healthy every summer, ensuring they return to school in the fall ready to succeed in the year ahead. And whereas summer learning programs are proven to maintain and advance students' academic and social growth, keep children safe and healthy during the summer. And whereas a wide array of public agencies, community-based organizations, schools, libraries, museums, recreation centers, camps, and businesses in our community contribute to the well-being of youth through summer programming. And whereas the Dubuque County is committed to investing in the health and safety of all young people, and joyful summer learning experiences are a critical component of our collective effort to ensure Dubuque's educational recovery and that all students heal, grow, and thrive through and beyond this global pandemic. Now, therefore, the Dubuque County Board of Supervisors do hereby proclaim the second week of July 2022 as Summer Learning Week in Dubuque County, Iowa, and asking all citizens to enthusiastically endorse and engage in innovative summer programs and activities that ensure all children have the opportunity to grow and be successful.
Motion to approve
Pardon?
the proclamation.
I will second that motion.
Have a motion and a second to adopt the proclamation. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. Beth?
I am Beth McGorry, the Director of Donor Relations at St. Mark Youth Enrichment. I want to say coming up here every day or every couple times a year is never easy. And one of the things that we try to teach our kids is civic responsibility. And so what you all did tonight was beautiful. And it's something that we like to talk about it with our children. And so I just want to commend you for being able to stand up and speak and be proud of yourself. I don't know all the background, but I just want you to know that our kids are looking up to us when we can do this properly. So at St. Mark, we do some really crazy, fun, beautiful things in the summer, of which the core of what we do is making sure kids feel loved and safe every day that they're with us. So for 5 weeks in Dubuque and in Dyersville, we're taking care of 100 kids and making sure that when they come in the door, they get a high five and a hug. I'm pretty sure I get climbed all over, and lots of hugs and kisses. And what ends up happening is that they do a lot of reading and they make sure that they are reading the books. I was with the STEAM class, which is science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. And the books were littered everywhere. Diary of a Wimpy Kid is the #1 topic and the #1 book with 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders. I'll tell you that today. This belief in summer and summer education is so important for our kiddos who might live in an environment that mom and dad can't sit with them every day and read through the summer because of the thing that we call the summer slide. So there's the potential of losing upwards to 6 months of education in the summer. And when our kids are living in lower poverty, that even gets worse. And so us being able to be with our kids halfway through the summer for 5 weeks gives our teachers another step up when they walk into that first day of school come August, because it's right around the corner. I'm sorry to tell everybody, but we started program last Monday with lots of cheeriness and probably the most amazing field trips that these kids are ever going to get to go on. One of the things that we talk about is reading and reading comprehension. And if you have never felt the wind in your hair when you read a book and you read about the kid who has wind and he's riding his bike and you're like, I don't have a bike, what am I going to do? Well, our 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders are going to 4 mounds to fly in the air and feel the wind in their hair. They're going kayaking at Catfish Creek, and they're going all over the place, visiting the Field of Dreams, both Dubuque and Dyersville classes, and everyone is getting a chance to explore our community throughout the county. And we just love the support that we receive. We can't wait to expand this program, take care of 60 Dyersville kids next year. That's the goal. That's the big goal for next summer. And I have to say that the kids are having a fun time. They're having a blast, and we are having so much fun with them, and they don't even know that they're learning. They don't even know. And so this year we've got some pretty amazing things. We have a couple of odd classes. So I said STEAM, which is our science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. We have a foodology course. So they're going to go hang out in Brazen. They're cooking down at Convivium. During summer learning week, Megan Horseman from Hy-Vee, the dietitian, is going to come in and teach the kids, and they're going to do some cooking for our guests who are visiting in Dubuque. And then we also have a nature navigators course. And if you can learn inside, you can learn outside. And so we believe that nature and kids need to happen more. Out in Dyersville during summer learning week, we have our big partners from ISU coming in doing some crazy robot building. So summer learning week, you're getting an invitation. Supervisors, you're getting an invitation. And I would invite anyone in the community who wants to see what's happening at St. Mark to visit us, visit our website, visit our Facebook page. There'll be more information, and contact us. And we've got 2 great dates. If you are in Dubuque that day or out in Dyersville, we got on separate dates so you can make your schedule work the best. So we can't wait to have you. Yes. I'll wait.
Time of year.
It is that time of year. Oh my gosh. We love our jobs. We love it.
Sounds fun.
Oh my gosh, right? Oh my gosh, if anyone wants anything really fun, Dubuque police officers against the kids in a water fight next Wednesday. It's gonna be fun.
Move along to the approval of the minutes of the meeting of June 20th, 22.
I will make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the minutes as presented. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next to consent items, we have no consent items. Procurement procedures, we have none. Public hearings, there's a notice of public hearing for the amendments to the zoning ordinance.
Motion to approve the notice of public hearing.
I will second that.
Have a motion and a second to approve the public hearing for the July 11th, 9 a.m. meeting. All in favor signify by aye.
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 Aye. Next, we have a resolution to approve the final plat of the Ganson Farm Subdivision Plat 4. Tammy?
Yes, good evening, everybody. The property is owned by Judy Callahan, Michael Ganson, Daniel Ganson, Larry Ganson, Dale Ganson, and Thomas Ganson, and is located 2 miles south of the city of Piasta along North Cascade Road with a total of 101.369 acres surveyed. This property is zoned A1 agricultural and A2 agricultural residential on zoning case number 0623 of 18. This was to separate the home and the farm buildings to sell to a member of the Ganson family. The purpose of this plat is to disperse the family farm to the family members. This survey creates 3 lots. Lot 1 is a total of 23.975 acres surveyed with a home, farm buildings, and it will remain in current ownership and agricultural use. Lot 2 is a total of 23.161 acres surveyed, and it will be sold to a family member who lives adjacent from the farm ground, and it will remain in current agricultural use. Lot 3 is a total of 54.233 acres surveyed, and it will be sold. Lot 1 will use an existing residential entrance off of North Cascade Road, and Lot 2 will use an existing field entrance north of the farm off of North Cascade Road, and Lot 3 will use an existing field entrance off of North Cascade Road. There were no additions or corrections required for this plat, and there are no mortgages on the property, and all the signatures are current. This plat's been reviewed by myself as plat's officer. I respectfully recommend approval. So this is a division of a family farm, and 2 of the family farm members are creating and keeping the farm ground, and Lot 3 will be sold as farm ground, but that will be sold. I'm not sure if it's going to be an adjacent neighbor or just sold outright. Does anybody have any questions for me?
I do not.
Ian?
Not.
I'll make a motion to approve the final plat for the Ganson Farm Subdivision Plat 4.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the final plat, Ganson Farm Subdivision Plat 4. All in favor signify by aye.
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 Aye. Next, we have a resolution to approve the final plat, Kendrick Subdivision. Tammy?
Okay, this property is owned by Timothy F. Kendrick Revocable Trust, Timothy F. Kendrick and Rhonda L. Kendrick trustees, and is located 3.17 miles northwest of the city of Luxembourg along Bourne Lane with a total of 59.88 acres surveyed. This property is zoned A1 agricultural and PC plant complex. The purpose of this plat is to separate the 10 acres that are zoned PC plant complex on zoning case number 0312 of 22. The survey creates 2 lots. Lot 1 is a total of 49.88 acres surveyed, and it will remain in current ownership and agricultural use. Lot 2 is a total of 10 acres surveyed with 2 homes, a pavilion, a cabin, a kitchen shed, and 6 cement pads, and it is owned PC plan complex, and it will remain in current ownership and use. Lot 1 and Lot 2 will use 66-foot wide access easement off of Bourne Lane. There were no additions or corrections for this plat. The mortgage holder's acknowledgement is signed and attached. Some of the signatures were over 60 days old, and they included the owner's consent, April 26th of 22, attorney's opinion, April 18th of 22, county assessor, April 22nd of 22. This plat has been reviewed by myself as plat's officers. It has all the required signatures. I respectfully recommend approval. This is the 10 acres that we needed to create for the PC. Once the PC was approved, then the surveyor came in and created the 10 acres around that, and this is that plat.
Any questions, Ann? Okay,
Make a motion to approve the final plat of Kendrick subdivision.
I will second that.
I have a motion and a second to approve the final plat of Kendrick Subdivision. All in favor signify by aye.
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 Thank you.
Go ahead.
Kirby Kendrick, 105 East Maple Street, Edgewood, Iowa. Thank you for approving it. But, you know, I wouldn't have gotten to this stage if it wasn't for Tammy and her office and some of the fine people on this zoning board. So I kind of heard what's going on here, and I guess being a part of a family business and knowing what it is to donate time in a small community like I do, it kind of feels like some of these folks have maybe gotten not a fair shake. I would encourage you all to relook at their credentials, especially someone that's been around for 8+ years. You just don't find people like that. So I appreciate your time, but I really encourage you to really consider your zoning commission board. So thank you.
Thank you, Kirby. Next, we'll move to action items. We have a resolution to approve the hiring of deputies, assistants, and clerks.
I will make a motion to approve the hiring requisitions resolution.
I seconded it.
Have a motion and a second to approve the hiring of deputies, assistants, and clerks. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next, we have a resolution to approve the fiscal year 23 collective bargaining agreement with the Teamsters Local 120 representing the administrative sheriff's deputies. Leave, well, Dawn is not here.
This was put into place and completed prior to our HR director's departure. This was to be added onto the agenda. And it just so happened that it came up on an agenda after the position was vacated.
We don't have Sheriff Kennedy in the room, do we, in Zoom?
I don't believe that we do. However, I know his recommendation and our recommendation, for what it's worth, is to go ahead and get this approved prior to the year end.
I believe the only change in the contract was a bereavement leave issue.
And I appreciated the short note that we received from HR, from our staff, kind of catching up some of the loose ends that were still with us. So I know that this one, I don't believe, yeah, they both are mentioned as being concluded. So I'm happy to make a motion to approve the fiscal year 23 collective bargaining agreement, motion to approve that resolution.
And I will second that.
Have a motion and a second to approve the fiscal year collective bargaining agreement with the Teamsters Local 120 representing the administrative sheriff's deputies. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next, we have a resolution to approve the allocation of project funds for the city of Bankston from the county's ARPA allocation.
Again, this is the City of Bankston wastewater treatment facility plan that you want to move forward funding for $25,000, not to exceed $25,650.
I will make a motion to approve the resolution for the project funds for the city of Bankston.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the allocation of project funds for the city of Bankston from the county's ARP allocation. All in favor signify by aye.
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 Aye. Next, we have a resolution to approve the fiscal year 23 deputies. This would take into account all the deputies in the county.
I think it's important to note that it is a 3-year contract, and that was
No, this is just identifying the deputies of all the departments.
oh, I see. I guess the non-bargaining is the next one. No.
Correct. This is a standard,
It is on here.
this is a standard HR resolution that comes through about this time each year that outlines the deputies that have been approved for fiscal
Of
year
all the
23.
elected officials,
Correct.
not just the sheriff, right?
County attorney wanted us to note that his appointments are assistants, not deputies.
Correct. So, and I believe the resolution itself does include the word assistants and or clerks. It was simply the agenda item that did not include.
Is it possible to share the county attorney's email? It was sent late in the day and I did not receive that. It pertains to.
I don't have it queued up,
You don't have it.
unfortunately. But he wanted, I believe the intent of the email was to clarify that while the agenda item says to approve fiscal 23 deputies, the actual resolution does show in the first paragraph, deputies, assistants, or clerks. So. Is-
And he clearly says assistant, so I.
Correct,
Yeah, I
yeah.
think it's,
When
I
it's
think
the
it's clear.
recommend-
I was just honoring his request
Of
to
course.
point it out. So I will make a motion to approve the resolution for the fiscal year 23 assistants and deputies.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the fiscal year 23 assistants and deputies. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next, we have the resolution to approve the fiscal year 23 salaries for non-bargaining county employees.
This again is another resolution from Human Resources. You're probably familiar seeing it this time of year. Typically, this is a resolution that they and we are recommending for approval. This will allow us to be able to flip the switch on fiscal 23 for all payroll for non-bargaining.
And that entailed a 5% increase for all non-bargaining.
Correct.
For the items that were budgeted. Motion to approve the resolution.
And I will second that.
Have a motion and a second to approve the fiscal year 23 salaries for non-bargaining county employees. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next, we have a resolution to approve the collective bargaining agreement with Dubuque County Deputy Sheriff's Association.
Same as before, another collective bargaining agreement that was largely in place prior to our HR director's departure. I believe the recommendation is also to approve, please.
And is this the one with the 3-year contract?
This is the 3-year contract, yes.
I know that was an important element for the sheriff to have a 3-year contract.
Right.
So make a motion to approve the resolution approving collective bargaining agreement with the Butte County Deputy Sheriff's Association.
And I will second that.
Have motion to second to approve the collective bargaining agreement with Dubuque County Deputy Sheriff's Association. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next, we have a resolution to approve the memorandum of understanding with Afscme representing Sunnycrest Manor.
This again, if she needs to, otherwise this is based on our session we had, does show an effective date of July 1st, 2022. And the memorandum of understanding has been signed by the union, and that signature is up on the screen.
All I was intending to say was that we have our finance director from Sunnycrest present here in the room, and I appreciate you attending, and those documents obviously summarize what we discussed in our meetings. Is there anything that
Questions?
the budget director would want to share about this?
Any questions on?
I don't have any questions. I mean, the intent of this new agreement is to elevate the lowest paid people at Sunnycrest that are providing care. As you may have, if you quickly noticed, one of the individuals hired today was hired at $12.36. So not a very competitive wage. This will change that, make it a little more competitive to the other entry-level service positions and some of the other additional assisted living positions.
And we do hope that this brings down the amount of money that we're paying to agency over time. I know that it's not necessarily a silver bullet, but it moves us towards something that potentially is helpful.
Of outsourcing, we can actually have employees with long-term care for basically the same rate. So I think it's a good agreement, and we spent a lot of hours working on it.
Yes.
So I will make a motion to approve the resolution.
Second.
Have motion and second to approve the memorandum of understanding with the union representing Sunnycrest. All in favor signify by aye.
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 Aye. Next, we have a resolution to approve Dubuque County anti-harassment and complaint procedure.
This is another one where we received communication from the county attorney this afternoon that indicated our county attorney and HR director were working in tandem on this policy, and that it was, I think, unclear as to whether or not it had been presented to department heads and other elected officials, and that there needed to be a little bit more sort of meat to it as far as if there's going to be a training component or a briefing component as well. I did, as an elected official, have an opportunity to look at this prior to it being on the agenda. I offered a couple of little minor feedback items, but nothing substantive. So I'll leave that up to the board to then discuss further.
That would be obviously we don't have HR director right now, but there would obviously have to be some training associated with the new policy or procedure.
And I believe that the HR department is aware of the July 15th date that was discussed.
So Stella Rundy, budget director. So Dawn had, or our HR director had directed this to the board and to the HR department that she had reviewed this along with CJ and outside counsel. So they were believing that this was complete as a policy. However, they're recommending training occur concurrently with it for all staff. She did provide me with that contact information for the people at NICC that would be providing the training. So we would be lining that up in concurrence with any policy that you would enact.
That's something you're overseeing, Stella, or, the memo from the HR staff indicates they're implementing that. I just don't, I don't know who to.
Sure.
task
So
with that.
as our HR director was departing, she had passed along a few things to me to ask that I follow up with them. So that was one of them that she had passed along.
I'd like to be part of the
happy to.
training.
Yep.
Too, right?
Yes, I
mean,
think-
we don't always get invited to things, but I think that would be important.
So should we table this? Or
I think
Wanna
if
go
you
forward?
are comfortable tabling it and we can do a little bit more investigation and bring it back next week, that's fine. I can follow up with the partners at NICC to see exactly where the training stood.
I've heard about an email that came through early.
And I've
later
read the
this
email
afternoon.
a couple times from the county attorney. He came in at 4:10. So action item number 8 here that we're discussing, he's not asking it to be tabled or removed. He's just commenting exactly what you said is, hey, there's some NICC training and some other things out there you might want to be aware of. And clearly we are now. So I don't see that that's his request. The next 2 items I will probably be recommending tabling, but we'll get there. So I'm prepared to approve the resolution right now and implement the training and others, which you're not going to call out specific training in a policy. So I think they're independent.
I didn't see the email. I had left before it came through. I thought there was something about other department heads that hadn't seen it yet. That's why I was thinking, do we need to table it that these other department heads get to view this? Or
With some of the policies that come through, such as procurement or travel, in the past, we have, during our department head meetings, reached out to other departments, provided them the draft language to get feedback. On rare occasions, do we get anything back that we ends up being in the final product? Given that this was looked over by the county attorney, our human resources director, and outside counsel, and the fact that I just took a quick look at it and didn't see anything that needed to be changed, I don't know that we would achieve any more value from spreading it around. I would support Supervisor Whitcomb's request to get this passed today, and then we can hammer out the details on training.
and
Yeah, it's been in the works for months.
Yeah.
I've seen some rough drafts go through too, so I think it's wise to get the policy in place, and then Stella, if you coordinate or whoever with the training, I'm hoping that that goes without any hitches. So I'll make a motion to approve the new Dubuque County Anti-Harassment and Complaint Procedure.
I will second that.
you have a motion and a second to approve the Dubuque County Anti-Harassment and Complaint Procedure. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Stella. Next, we have a resolution to approve the fiscal year 23 lease for juvenile court services office space with the city of Dubuque.
I will make a motion to table that upon review of the county attorney.
Somebody just could somebody read me his email? County attorney raised some issues about this lease.
I didn't get the email.
Yeah, I don't have it either.
County Attorney May commented that he had not seen either of these leases. So the HR director passed them along to me at her departure as well. And so we prepared the resolutions to get them on the agenda. But of course, if there needs to be additional review and discussion, that's completely
I'd be
fine.
happy to read it. It's an email address to the 3 supervisors, so it's public record as is. If
It
you'd
was
like me
also-
to read it. It's this section, so I'm going to read this section related to I and J, the two contracts. Second, in regard to action items I and J, I was not asked to review those leases for approval. I'm not certain if this was an oversight, as typically I've been asked to review all leases, receive my review and approval before they come to you for consideration. I just wanted you to know the background in these items.
Still, are they the same leases as previously? Do you know that?
Yes, they would be the same. Well, no, I'll take that back. So for the juvenile court services, it would be the same lease as you have seen in the past, however, with a new rate. I believe it's a 3% increase over the prior year.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
I
I did make a motion to table. Was there?
Okay, I thought we were just
Procedurally, what
discussion.
happened?
I didn't hear you.
Correct. There's a motion open. Is there a second?
I'll make the second, the table I and J until the county attorney has a chance to look over them.
So, is that the motion to table until he looks them over?
I believe that's the way we should be doing it, is the county attorney should review them.
Right. So 2 weeks?
Soon as he's done with them, we can put them back on the agenda, I guess. See how long it takes.
Yeah, somebody can forward it to him, given that he brought it to our attention this afternoon. I would imagine that hopefully we could get that looked at in the next couple of days and get it back on the agenda for next Tuesday.
Right. Have a motion and a second to table the fiscal year 23 lease for juvenile court services and the fiscal year 23-24 lease for MHTS office space.
Supervisor Wickham, was the motion to table both or just the first?
I think procedurally it was just to table the
Okay.
item I.
Motion will be for I, and
Sorry.
then we can do a separate for.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to table I, which is the fiscal year 23 lease for juvenile court services. All in favor signify by aye.
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 I'll make a motion to table resolution J to approve the mental health office space with Dubuque Ideal Campus.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the fiscal year 23-24 lease for MHTS office space. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next, we have a resolution to approve the annual resolutions relating to the duties of the county engineer.
And supervisors, each one of these resolutions will be voted on and approved individually, please.
First one will be the execution of certification of completion. Be approving Russ Weber to sign on behalf of the county on execute the certification of completion of work and final acceptance.
I'll move approval.
I will second that with discussion, please.
Motion and a second for discussion.
I just think maybe for the public, this will be the first document that I know that will recognize Russell to be our new county engineer. And so we appreciate your service and we appreciate you stepping up to that position starting officially July 16th. Thank you. So appreciate your service and look forward to have you in that leadership role.
Any further discussion?
Well, maybe it should be noticed as well. Notice that you have been a registered professional engineer in the state of Iowa and have signed off on many of the roads and bridges that have come before us and we've funded. So been basically serving as an engineer for the county. This will just be the official designation of county engineer.
Further? Have a motion and a second to approve the execution of certificate of completion. Favor signify by aye.
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 Aye. Next, we have designate county engineer Russ Weber to execute on behalf of the Board of Supervisors all weight restrictions necessary to protect highways and bridges in this county and post the same as necessary.
I will make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve Russell for the issuance of weight restrictions. All in favor signify by aye.
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 Aye. Next.
Road closures, I think.
by the Board of Supervisors that in accordance with section 306.41 of the Code of Iowa, and because of the construction, reconstruction, maintenance, or natural disaster on any Dubuque County secondary road, that Russell Weber is hereby delegated to temporarily close any Dubuque County secondary road for a period of time from the beginning of such construction, reconstruction, maintenance, or natural disaster, and that the proper road close signs and partial or total barricades be erected and maintained at each end of the closed secondary road section and on the closed secondary road section where the secondary road is intersected by other highways if such intersection remains open.
I'll make a motion to approve that resolution.
And I will second that.
Motion and a second to appoint or approve Russ for road closures. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next, we'll go to the execution of moving permits. The board hereby designates and authorizes Russell Weber, County Maintenance Superintendent, the engineering staff or administrative assistants of the secondary road to execute on behalf of the Board of Supervisors all moving permits issued by the county to contractors, mobile home dealers, or individuals.
I will make a motion to approve that resolution.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve Russ for the execution of the moving permits. Next, we'll go to the dust control.
Vote on that one.
And a motion and a second for the execution of the moving permits. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. Sorry about that, Kevin. Move to the dust control permits. Board hereby designates, authorizes, and empower Russell Weber to execute dust control permits upon request and subject to the conditions that's contained in the permit for the application of dust control material to the roadway in front of applicant's residence.
Motion to approve the resolution.
I will second that.
I have a motion and a second to approve the execution of dust control permits. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next, we have resolution to approve delegate for signing necessary documents with Staggered Construction Incorporated for the HMA resurfacing on Sundown Road, project STBG-SWAP-C031 parentheses 113-FG-31.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution for the documents for Sundown Road.
I'll second that just with the question to the county engineer. Is there anything more we need to know about this? Just the standard documents, I think.
Yeah. So Russell Weber, Assistant County Engineer. This will just be for our typical project signing, pay estimates and vouchers and all the APIA and online documents that pertain to most typical projects that are federally funded with the state.
Motion in a second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the delegate for signing the necessary documents with Staggered Construction for the resurfacing on Sundown Road. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next, we have a resolution to approve the delegate for signing necessary documents with Pierce Tobin Construction for the grade and pave improvements to Northwest Arterial D10 South John Deere Road build project HDP-C031 parentheses 110-6B-31. And this would be the same, Russ.
Make a motion to approve the resolution.
And I will second that.
I have a motion and a second to approve the delegate for signing necessary documents regarding the John Deere build grant. All in favor signify by aye.
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 Aye. Communications, we have manure management plan, Gary Burkle, number 70448. I believe there was some change, but it just had to do with the crop rotation.
Motion to receive and file.
Second.
Have motion and a second to receive and file manure management plan. Gary Burkle, number 70448. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next, move to appointments. There was one appointment for the Disabilities Council. Penny Alinger was late in getting her application in due to a medical emergency. She is a current member of that board, served a partial term.
Auditor helped me with what should be the correct term. So we do this again.
I have to go back to last week's document.
I believe they were 3-year terms, weren't they, for the 2025? Okay.
Motion to approve Penny Alinger to the Disabilities Council for a term.
I will second that.
Have a motion and a second to appoint Penny Alinger to the Disabilities Council for a term ending June 30th of 2025. All in favor signify by aye.
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 Aye. Next, we have discussion regarding zoning commission. For 3 appointments to that. One was a Carmen Dunkel, a Lisa Flanagan, and a David George. There was some question. David George had been the incumbent and he was appointed to a 1-year term. He could have been appointed to a 4-year term. Board does have the discretion of appointing to whatever term. Would be eligible to reapply in a year. If the board would want to change that to a 4-year term. This discussion.
Well, I think it's an oversight, as I indicated to you in your email to me. I think it was just, as they come up, it's a matter of assigning a term with the guidance, just like you saw here tonight with the auditor. So if you would apply for another term at the end of this, you would still be eligible for a full term. If you are not interested in applying for that term in another year, then we can make a change or we can stand with what we've done. So I think it's kind of, it's not an error. I suppose it's just the rush of moving through, trying to get terms correct for the record. The podium to let anybody online can't hear you from there. So you have to be at the microphone for anybody online to be able to hear you.
Dave George, 15425 Piasta, Iowa. Yeah, on this appointment, I just, I didn't say nothing at the time it happened. It shocked me, but I thought, well, maybe I'm missing something or I'm not aware of something in the law. So I went home and I researched things and went back through my application specifically, and let me grab that. And the questions that were asked to answer in the applications in response to interest in appointment, describe in detail why you're interested in serving on a county board or commission, include information about your background that supports your interest. Being retired, I feel I have the time and interest to give back to my community and would enjoy continuing to serve on the zoning commission with others in a productive manner to benefit the residents of Butte County. Also, I have enjoyed my short time serving on the zoning commission since January 2022 and would very much like to be reappointed to continue the work of the zoning commission. I just am flabbergasted how this was overlooked and I was given a 1-year term when 2 people that have never been on the board before were appointed to 5-year terms. Jerry was booted off. Just seems like something strange going on here.
Because you're entitled to a full term.
Exactly.
So if you apply next year and you get obviously a full term, because somebody's got to get the partial term because we had a resignation from that board.
I understand that.
That's how you got on with the partial term.
That's right.
Well,
With the understanding
as
of
a
running.
procedural thing, it was nothing to do with Jerry. It's nothing to do with you. Actually, you're gaining a year because you'll be able to put in for a full term, so you'd gain a year.
That's if I get appointed.
You didn't have a full term, did you?
No, but that doesn't mean.
Okay,
I'll
so
get
then you would
appointed.
probably be reappointed if you reapplied.
I'd have 6 years less than Jerry had. I might get thrown out with the bathwater.
Maybe I'll jump in. So it also was an oversight from my vantage point with your 1-year term. And so now having a chance to review it and think about it, I would support having somebody who's an incumbent with experience be appointed to a 4-year term. I think that makes more sense, and having a new member be a 1-year term just makes your known quantity. And so I would support that change now. And I think that makes the most sense as reviewing it. I apologize for that oversight of that if I had thought through those, because we did get partial terms every now and then for resignations.
Right,
and
no, I
stuff.
understand.
And I did second Supervisor McDonough's motion for that right away, and then it passed. But I would for tonight be looking for that to be one marked change.
Well, we don't have an open vacancy at this point because we've made the appointment. It certainly isn't intended to slay you. You and I have talked before when you applied previously for this position. So I don't want you to misunderstand. These are not in any way reflective of ability or commitment. I know the zoning board takes a lot of time. I mean, frequently I'm at your meetings in the Zoom world. I know it takes a lot of time, and it is attention to detail. So if you are offended, our fix to that is going to likely offend someone else down the road that's been given a 4-year term. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's the
I don't-
compounding of that. and
Yeah, I
it's-
understand that, but I don't think that's my fault.
Oh, I don't think it's anybody's fault. I think it's, you have every right to say, how did that happen? You've been reappointed to the board. I would defer to the chair, I guess, to kind of find a way forward here.
Well, I think the way
The auditor
forward.
has a suggestion.
The way forward is the supervisors have the authority to appoint and make changes and make this correction. And that's what I would be advocating, and I'm not at the point of the motion word, but that's what I think we should do is make that change and correct it, certainly related to David George and his application. If you hear 2 supervisors say it was in error or we moved too fast, 1 week later, you have a chance to correct it. I think you should do just that. And one of the newer members, so it'd be either Carmen Dunkel or Lisa Flanagan, would receive that 1-year term, assuming they wanted to serve that term. This had other appointments where you have a dozen applicants for, less positions. This was, basically 3 open positions and 4 applicants. So it's one individual that may not be appointed. So that's what I would ask my colleagues, that we have the authority and the ability, and it's on the docket for discussion, that we actually make that change.
And all I was asking was if the chair had an opinion, I would listen to that. I don't have a strong opinion about this. My comment is that it could just cause another ripple, which is fine. No one else is standing here demanding to be reset to a different term. Let me correct that, asking to be reset to a different term. I appreciate what you're doing. I mean,
I would be in
work.
favor of moving Dave's thing to the 4-year term. And we will decide whether Carmen or Lisa would move to the 1-year term.
I will make that motion. Then I'll make a motion to appoint David George to the zoning commission for a 4-year term.
And I will second that.
In discussion, I'd like to circle back to the auditor.
I just want to make sure that we have the ability to do that, because currently, as of right now, we have no vacancies on the zoning board. And we are you have appointed Carmen and Lisa to the terms ending 2026. I am unclear in my brief search just a second ago if we have a mechanism that allows us to undo, even at the board's discretion, to undo an appointment to a board and commission.
We're not changing an appointment, we're just changing the expiration date.
It's in the minutes.
Correct.
Supervisor Pana.
So I would, at a minimum, I would almost ask that if we could have a week to just make sure we follow the procedure properly. I don't see any reason why we can't undo it, but I would want to make sure that we have the ability to do that and to make sure that we document it correctly and to figure out which member of the zoning board that was appointed last week would be the one to receive the 1-year term and how that would be determined.
Maybe procedurally, make sure I don't get too lost here. I made a motion. Was it seconded? Yeah. Okay,
Supervisor Pana.
thank you. Thank you. I had forgotten. Okay, so we have a motion in a second. Thank you. I would prefer to have the board rule, and if for some reason the county attorney and the state laws of Iowa prohibit that decision, obviously I would stand down, but I don't anticipate that from my knowledge.
Do we know if either of, hang on a second, let me go back to the screen. Do we know if either Carmen or Lisa have taken their oath yet? Can anybody tell me that?
I don't know if they were notified. I don't know.
If the oath hasn't been administered, undoing it would be much easier, and I would suggest you can move forward today in doing so. Correct, there is an oath. Yes.
So you would suggest still that we wait a week to get this right and not make it another mess?
Given Mr. Sigler saying that the likelihood of them taking the oath is probably non-existent at this point, I would say that the board would have the latitude to make the change.
Anya on our Zoom, she takes care of this.
She is not.
CJ May is.
Could get the county attorney's opinion if he's available.
CJ, you available?
And we do have our zoning administrator asking if she may speak, Tammy Henry.
Go ahead, Tammy.
It's my information that nobody has been notified because of this coming up last week. My understanding from Tanya was that the 2 female members have not been notified of this at all yet. So they weren't given a letter or a call. So I guess I'm assuming that there was no swearing in because they don't even know they've been appointed yet.
And just disclosure, I did speak with Lisa Flanagan.
Okay.
I have another professional relationship with her, so I mentioned that there was an appointment, but that doesn't mean it's done. So I believe we have a motion second. I would like to call for a vote. I think we should make the decision today, and obviously, as always, on all items, make sure we have legal authority, but I don't risk being that great here.
I would agree with you. We have motion and a second to appoint Dave to the 4-year term. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Nay.
No, I would vote aye. I just don't know which person is getting a 1-year term.
Because you will need to determine who is getting the 1-year term this
Great.
evening. as well.
Well, we're
That's
just,
not the motion.
motion was to appoint him
And
to
I
the
voted
4.
aye.
You have-
And then I had a
oh.
question for the chair.
I'm sorry.
You have a 4-year term?
So we had,
Thank you very much. I
that
appreciate
carried.
it.
Need to decide whether Carmen or Lisa get the 1-year term.
Well, maybe we can step into it a little further. We also have a request from Gary Sigworth, who's a current incumbent, to reconsider his application and be appointed to the board. Would the board like to have that discussion? I would support that. I did make a motion last week to appoint Jerry. It was not seconded. I did then support the other 2 candidates, but still strongly believe that Jerry would be a really good person to be on that board related to the complexities of zoning and his experience. I'd ask my colleagues to reconsider that.
We had this discussion in January and I've known Jerry my whole life, not long with him my whole life. It was decided by majority of the board that if we had qualified candidates and the incumbent had served a full term, we were going to give other people opportunities to be on the board, that we keep getting applicants to sign up for positions. I think we need to stick with that we keep getting people to sign up for these boards. Our numbers have picked up dramatically with applications to be on boards. And if we're going to go back to appointing the same people all the time, we're going to lose all these applicants.
There is a person named Samantha with their hand up on Zoom.
Yes, this is Samantha Voice. I was in the room.
Samantha, 1 second. We're not in public comment at this moment.
Oh. Okay.
I was with you, Harley and Jay. We had this discussion, and it's unfortunate that you're taking this as some kind of a critique when it's an opportunity that was discussed by the board for someone new. So I do thank you. I think I've done that in writing and have thanked you, I hope personally, for the service you've given to the board. But in light with the change that there has been in the numbers of people who have applied, that makes a tremendous difference to transparency in government, to have new people be engaged in the process. So I think it's a perspective that was articulated for the first time by Supervisor Potoff in January, and Supervisor Wickham joined in that. They were together on that. So that's where I am. I don't know that there's more to discuss, honestly.
Like I said, Jerry has been my friend I've known him my whole life. He's done a great job for the board, the zoning board. But, I think we have to stay with what we said we were going to do.
Well, I think to your credit, you're so far the only one who has done that. And so Supervisor McDonough supported another incumbent on another board adamantly. And then related to this point, then I'm supporting an incumbent. And one of the board members from zoning resigned, and, you know, the Kendrick, which is on tonight for the resolution, you adamantly fought against that zoning approval, of which the member that resigned was the only dissenting vote. And now we're making drastic change, and we're making changes for the incumbents. So I think there's a time and place for modifications and changes. I think we do want to have new people apply, but related to when we were at the health board, there was a dozen, if not 15 people applying. This is a pretty short group. So it's, only one of the applicants doesn't make it. So I would ask for changes, and we can make modification changes. I'm not asking you to change your vote, but I think it's clear that there's not unanimous consent on the board that we're going to always pick new people, because 2 of the 3 have already said, no, we're not going to do that every time. You're the only one who's stuck with it.
Actually, those comments were from January, where I was saying that I supported someone adamantly. On Monday, we had numerous applicants who were reappointed because there was no other application. They were incumbents, but there was no other application. No other applicant. Others were changed out because they had served a term. So we have been using a procedure that was articulated in January. So I think it's unfair to this board and commission and the new people we are appointing to all of our boards and commissions to make this a dramatic statement. It is simply that there are new opportunities and new people stepping forward. That's actually something that I campaigned on in 2018, that getting people on the board, all of those empty seats with no one applying, that isn't the way government should work. So, I appreciate you all being here and all holding us accountable for our decisions. That's wonderful. And I think we've rectified with Mr. George what the oversight is. And I would like to move on and give the new people opportunity to be fully trained and join the board and begin the discussion.
I would be with Dan to move on. I just think we need to, and I talked to Jeff about this, you know, experience is great, but new blood and fresh ideas are good too. Jerry's more than welcome to apply for any other board in the county, can reapply for the zoning board if he wants. I mean, that's fine. But at this time, I think we're going to move forward with the appointments we made. Definitely would thank Jerry for all his time and service. I hope he applies for another board because he has done good work. He goes to the meetings. He puts in his 2 cents. But I think I'm going to stay with the road I was on. I'm not going to change. He kind of inferred that this had some other makings to it. It does not have any other makings to me.
Understand that.
I don't really like that inference that, you know, there was something underlying on this, because that is definitely not the case with me.
Read that wholeheartedly.
So we can move forward. Good with that?
I am good with that. I don't like to go 15 rounds. So when I know the board's heading in a direction, I respect that. And so I'm not interested in going 15 rounds when I know the decision.
Okay. Move on to open vacancies for information only.
Chair Potoff, would you care to determine which of the appointed zoning members would be assuming the term ending 7/1/23?
That individual will be eligible to reapply for another term.
Absolutely. They'll end up having that bonus year that you mentioned earlier. So
I'll just suggest Carmen Dunkel. She's been attending many of our meetings via Zoom. She has great interest in county. Her recommendations were good. I mean, I'm sure she would serve at the board's pleasure to do 1-year term, and she'll have opportunity to apply again.
So that would be for 1 year, which would imply then Lisa Flanagan would stay with her 4 years. I think and we're still in discussion. I don't know if that was a motion. If we're just talking about it, I think, the comment that, there's no guarantees. And so bonus might be the wrong word. There are elections, and the Board of Supervisors, 2 of us are up. So a majority of the board is up for re-election. So it's not guaranteed. And I think it's not accurate to say that, oh, you can reapply and you'll be appointed. That's just not how it works. There's no, hey, I'll get you next year. And so, and I think that was a comment that David George made. So I think it's fair in pointing out.
I'm saying that. I mean, I fully understand. I think that the effort is to build participation. That is the effort, and that it's been successful. I think we need to stay with the system that builds participation. That's it. And so truly, whether Carmen Dunkel chooses to reapply or not, that doesn't say I'll get you next time. That's saying if she chooses that her time, she feels valued, and it's a board that's interesting to her and it fits with her schedule, then she may choose to apply. It's about participation.
I think it is about participation.
There is going to be at least 1 person on the board. There's only 2 up for election. Okay. So I think.
Do you have a long memory, Supervisor Potoff? Is that what you're saying?
One supervisor can't make a decision.
But the decisions that we have made leading up to this point were that a person is entitled to a full term before they would be replaced. So she would not have a full term, so she would still be probably the top candidate because she hasn't had the full term. Once they have a full term, then it moves down.
I would agree with the probability, yes. And so participation is important. That's not the only thing. Participation awards are not what you want to lean on. You also want to have expertise and you want to have a well-functioning boards. So it's not just about participation. So, if my colleagues thought that ever and always we were going to get new people in here, that was never my intent. And clearly it's not Supervisor McDonough's intent either, because not supported just that. You have done that, Supervisor Potoff. I think we need to recognize some, history and knowledge that people have and experience on these boards as well. And I think we missed that opportunity with Jerry Sigworth. I'm happy to appoint one of these individuals. We have to make a decision. I don't necessarily have any insight to either of the two that would lead either way.
Other open seats
Supervisor.
happening. I mean, there are other openings happening all the time on our boards.
Believe
It's constant.
Supervisor McDonough had recommended Carmen Dunkel for the 1-year term.
I'll make that into a motion.
And I will second that.
Have a motion and a second to appoint Carmen Dunkel to a 1-year term expiring July 1st of 2023. It probably should be June 30th of 2023, right? But doesn't make any difference on one day. All in favor signify by aye.
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 Aye. There are no personnel requisition for approval at this meeting. We'll move to the public comments. At this time, anyone may address the board on matters of which are of concern to that person and which are not agenda items. Please go to the podium, state your name and home address. Please be aware that the board is limited in their ability to respond to such inquiries, and Iowa Code prohibits the board from deliberating or acting on items not appearing on the agenda. Individual remarks are limited to 3 minutes. Do we have anyone in chambers wishing to address the board? Jeff?
Just want to respond to your great discussion you guys just had here, and Supervisor McDonough, I fully understand the need to keep boards moving. I've seen stale boards, they don't work, and I understand that, but I also understand what Jay's saying about experience. And I think in your future references, you really need to also consider that particular board and the complexities of it. I was involved in rewriting a lot of the regulations and rules for the county on the ag side. And I know Jerry was involved with a lot of that when all that stuff was redone. That amount of knowledge to a board like that is so detailed is hard to get back just because we want new blood. I mean, believe me, I understand new blood. It's a necessity to keep things moving. But just because you've got extra applicants doesn't mean you have to take them. Just to interject that. There are new positions coming up, in the future that they could apply for too also. And at some point, there may be another board member that resigns or says, hey, I've had enough. But when you've got an experienced board member that understands all the rules and regulations as well as he did, that's a hard thing to lose. So I appreciate your discussion you just had. It's very important. But I think in the future, when it comes to these very, very complex boards, such as zoning, it's important to remember the knowledge that's already there too. Okay. That's all.
Thanks, Jeff. Samantha?
Hi, yes, Samantha Boyce, 20877 Ridge Road, Cheryl, Iowa. I'm sorry I had to leave the room. I'm sitting in my driveway about to walk in for my kids. But I just want to state, I think Jeff brought up a good point. There was dialogue tonight that took place that's good and important. I think that a very poor precedent may have been set back in January. And I don't know if I agree that that is the precedence you move forward with. I question still the processes and procedures, even with making the decision between the two candidates, Lisa and Carmen tonight. I don't think that that was the discussion that needed to happen in order to vet an individual and to make a decision on appointment. I question and I urge you to take the time to get the feedback from the individuals within your disposal, being the various boards. And I feel that the precedent set in January that I know very little about is a very scary one. It's not something that I've seen written down anywhere. I haven't seen a process or procedure for it. I'd be interested in reviewing that. If you say and you can speak to it, that your decision is your decisions, but it's a concerning one.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else wishing to address the board? No one else in chambers or on Zoom? I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
A motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. We stand adjourned. Thank you, colleagues.